No way. Commanders Nation, what's gone down in the last 24 hours is absolutely brutal. We're talking immediate firings, star defenders coming back after controversial suspensions, and a $45 million player who's finally showing why Adam Peters bet so big on them. But here's the craziest part. One of these decisions could completely change the course of our season. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. If you thought this week was going to be quiet after Madrid, you're out of your mind. Stick around until the end because the third piece of news has a twist no one saw coming. News 1. The firing nitrogen monoxide one wanted but everyone expected. After years of watching this team struggle with the kicker position, after entire seasons where field goals became our recurring nightmare, we finally thought we'd found stability with Matt Gay for $1 million to $150,000 guaranteed. That was Adam Peters' gamble. And I'm telling you this, when you pay that kind of money for a kicker in the modern NFL, you're not looking for a temporary patch. You're looking for your long-term solution. But on Sunday in Madrid, with 15 seconds on the clock, with a 5-game losing streak crushing us like a concrete slab, Matt Gay had the chance to be the hero this franchise desperately needed. 56 yards. A kick that would not only give us the win against Miami, but would pull us out of the deepest hole of this season. And what happened? The ball went wide, and I saw how the heart of every Commanders fan in that stadium broke into pieces. Now I ask you this, do you think that was the only reason Gay is packing their bags today? No. That missed kick was simply the straw that broke the camel's back. Because let me show you the real numbers Dan Quinn and Adam Peters were looking at in that boardroom. 13 of 19 field goals made this season. 13 of 19, that's a 68% success rate. Do you know where that puts them among all qualified kickers in the NFL? In 32nd place out of 34. I'm telling you this, in a league where Justin Tucker is hitting 85%, where Jake Elliott of the Eagles is at 82%. Having your kicker in 32nd place is like playing with one hand tied behind your back. But here's what really scared the organization. Kicks from over 50 yards, 4 of 9. 4 of 9 from over 50 yards this season, and this isn't new. Because last year with Indianapolis, Gay missed 6 of 9 from that distance. Do you see the pattern? When the game is on the line, when you need that clutch kick that separates playoff teams from teams going home in January, Gay just couldn't deliver. And I believe the most devastating part of all this is that Gay knew it. After the game, they themselves said that 100% of the blame for the loss fell on them. I respect the honesty. I respect a person standing up and taking responsibility. But in this business, in the NFL where every win can be the difference between playoffs and an early vacation, apologies don't put points on the board. Dan Quinn tried to soften the blow when they spoke to the media on Monday. They said, performance, you gotta have it. It wasn't about one game, and there's the naked truth. Commanders Nation, it wasn't Madrid. It was the accumulation of 11 weeks where every time we needed 3 points from distance, we had to cross our fingers and pray. Now we're 3-7. Back on the kicker carousel, looking for our solution number. I don't know how many. In the last 5 years, for Matt Gay, a 7-season veteran with a respectable 84% career success rate. This is a brutal reminder that in the NFL you're only as good as your last kick, and unfortunately, for them, their last significant kick was the one that cost us a win we desperately needed. But do you think Peters already has a plan? Do you think there's someone waiting in the shadows ready to put on that burgundy and gold uniform? I'm telling you this, Adam Peters doesn't make impulsive decisions. If they fired Gay on Monday morning, it's because they already have their next move planned. And now I ask you, who do you think should be our next kicker? Do we bring in a proven veteran or gamble on a young person with a strong leg? If that surprises you, wait until you hear this. News 2, the return of the Giant when we think about all we've suffered this season. When we remember that second quarter against Detroit that felt like an eternity of humiliation, there's one image etched in every fan's memory, Drawn Payne being ejected from the game. After that altercation with Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 5 passes defended in 10 games. Those are the numbers Payne had accumulated before everything exploded in Detroit. Now, after serving their 1-game suspension, after watching from home as the team struggled without them in Madrid, Drawn Payne is officially back, and I'm telling you this. Their return couldn't come at a better time for a defense that's desperately trying to find its identity. Let me take you back to that moment in Detroit. Second quarter, Things were already getting ugly, and suddenly we see Payne and Javon Kinlaw involved in a fight. With St. Brown, Payne lands a punch, is immediately ejected, and then comes the one-game NFL suspension. A decision that cost them being on the field in Madrid, a game we lost in overtime by a field goal. But here's what you need to understand about Drastic Payne. This isn't just any player. This is the number 13 pick from the 2018 draft. A defensive monster from Alabama who has been the cornerstone of our defensive line for 7 seasons when the Commanders gave them a 4-year, $90 million contract. With $16 million for $100,000 this year, they weren't just paying for tackles, they were paying for leadership, for presence, for that kind of player who makes the opposing team's centers and guards have to double team them. And now I ask you, did you see the difference in Madrid without Payne? I saw it. I saw a defensive line that struggled to generate consistent pressure. I saw gaps in the run game that Payne would normally have closed. And even though Javon Kinlaw had a great game, it's not the same as having both dominating the trenches. Dan Quinn took over defensive play calling in Madrid, and the results were promising. The defense looked more organized, more aggressive, more like what we expected at the start of the season. But that was against Miami, a sub-500 team. Now, with Payne back, with all that pent-up rage from having watched the loss from their couch, I believe we're going to see a player hungry to prove their absence was felt. Here's what has me excited. Payne returns just as we face the most critical part of our season. 3-7 isn't where we want it to be, but mathematically we're still not eliminated. And if there's one thing that can change a defense's momentum, it's having your $90 million defensive tackle back, ready to tear apart offensive lines. I'm telling you this, Payne's suspension was deserved. We can't defend that punch. We can't justify losing composure on the field. But I also understand the frustration when you're being humiliated 42-6. When you feel your season slipping away, emotions explode. It's not an excuse, but it's context. What matters now is how Payne uses this experience. Are they going to come back more focused? Are they going to channel that intensity productively? Because we Commanders fans know that when Drastic Payne is playing at their highest level, when they're destroying blockers and collapsing the pocket, our defense is completely different. And while the Cowboys are dealing with injuries on their defensive line, while the Eagles are trying to maintain their chemistry after all their moves, we have our defensive anchor back, ready to remind the NFC East why we paid them like one of the best defensive tackles in the conference. But do you think Payne comes with something to prove? Do you think this week off the field made them reflect on their role as a leader? I believe so. And now I ask you, are you ready to see an enraged Drastic Payne dominating the line of scrimmage this Sunday? But that's nothing compared to what's coming. News 3, the redemption of the $45 million investment finally. We have an organization that isn't afraid to make aggressive moves in free agency. Adam Peters came to Washington with a reputation for building dominant defensive lines. And their biggest offseason signing was clear. Javon Kinlaw, 3 years, $45 million. With $30 million guaranteed. Those are elite player numbers. Those are numbers that tell you the organization believes they've found a fundamental piece for the coming years. But after 10 games, after seeing 20 combined tackles and 0 sacks, after that disaster in Detroit where Kinlaw was penalized for contact with an official, and then showed a defensive attitude, in the post-game press conference, I think we were all starting to wonder, did Peters make a $45 million mistake? Madrid changed that narrative completely. Let me paint you the picture. Fourth quarter, the game on the line. The Dolphins trying to score the touchdown that would bury us deeper in our misery. Third down on the goal line. Devon Achane, one of the most explosive running backs in the league, gets the ball. And there's Javon Kinlaw, penetrating, wrapping up, stopping Achane right at the line. No touchdown. No yards. Nothing. That play should have been the one that gave us the win. That play was exactly why Peters signed Kinlaw in the most critical moment. When the game is on the line. When you need your $45 million investment to step up and deliver. Kinlaw did it. And here's what has me really excited. Kinlaw finished the game with 5 combined tackles. Their highest mark of the entire season. But it's not just the numbers. It was how they played. It was the intensity, the urgency, the dominance we saw in flashes throughout the afternoon in Madrid. Now I ask you, did you see the difference in their body language? Because I saw it. After Detroit, after all the controversy, Kinlaw came out in Madrid with something to prove. And while Matt Gay missed that field goal, While Marcus Mariota threw that devastating interception in overtime, Kinlaw did everything that was asked of them. Dan Quinn taking control of the defensive play calling also helped. We saw more aggressive schemes. We saw Kinlaw being used in ways that maximize their strengths. Because here's the truth, when we signed them from the 49ers, we knew we were getting a defensive tackle with 3 technique pass rush skills. We knew we were getting someone who could collapse the pocket from the interior. The first 10 weeks, we didn't see enough of that. 20 tackles and 0 sacks for a player of their caliber simply isn't acceptable, but Madrid showed us a glimpse. A reminder of why Peters was willing to bet so big. And I'm telling you this, while the Giants are paying $18 million a year to Dexter Lawrence and seeing mixed results, while the Cowboys are trying to replace the production they lost on their defensive line, we have Kinlaw hitting their stride just when we need them most. But here comes the million-dollar question. Was Madrid a real turning point or just an isolated good game? Because we Commanders fans have seen this before. We've seen players have a great game and then disappear the following weeks. We've been burned too many times by false hopes. I believe this is different. I believe Kinlaw is finally finding their rhythm in Quinn's system. I believe the combination of them and Payne back together on the line is going to create the kind of interior pressure we've been waiting for all season. Because when you have to defensive tackles who can win their one-on-one matchups, when you have players who force offensive coordinators to dedicate extra attention to them, your entire defensive scheme elevates. Kinlaw needed Madrid as much as the team needed their best version after Detroit. After the criticism, after the questions about their temperament and their production, they went out and delivered in the most important moment. That tackle on the goal line should have been the game-winning play. It wasn't their fault, it wasn't. And now, with Payne returning, with Quinn adjusting the defensive scheme, with Kinlaw showing signs of life, I see a defensive line that can finally start to look like what we all imagined when Peters made that signing in March. Are you ready to see Kinlaw and Payne together tearing apart offensive lines? Do you think Madrid was the start of something big or just a mirage? I'm telling you this, the next 4 games are going to tell us everything we need to know about whether this $45 million investment is going to pay dividends or if we'll keep questioning Peters' decisions. So let's recap. A brutal firing of our kicker, the return of our defensive anchor, and the redemption of our biggest off-season investment. 3 pieces of news. 3 completely different narratives, but all pointing to the same question. Can the Commanders salvage this season? Because I guarantee you tomorrow we'll have more explosive news. I guarantee you this week is going to be full of moves, decisions, and plays that will define whether we're a playoff team or if we start looking towards the 2026 draft. And you cannot miss what's coming. You cannot miss the analysis. You cannot miss the reactions. You cannot miss anything that's about to explode in the next 72 hours. So here's what I need you to do. If you think firing Gay was the right decision, hit that like button on this video. If you think Payne is going to come back like a person possessed, subscribe to the channel. And if you think Kinlaw is finally going to justify those $45 million, share this video with every Commanders fan you know. But here's my final question for you, Commanders Nation. Of these 3 news items, which one do you think will have the biggest impact on the rest of our season? Is it finding a new reliable kicker? Is it having Payne back dominating? Or is it Kinlaw finally reaching their potential? Let me know in the comments because I want to hear exactly what you think. This is more than a YouTube channel. This is a family. This is a community of fans who bleed burgundy and gold, who suffer together every Sunday, who celebrate every victory as if it were the Super Bowl. And I need you to be a part of this. I need you to subscribe, to hit that notification bell, to be here every single day for the freshest news, the deepest analysis, and the most honest opinions about our team. Because while other channels are talking about the Cowboys, about the Eagles, about the big market teams, we are here, focused on the Commanders, dedicated to this franchise, committed to bringing you the best content, day after day. So join this family, become a part of this community, because together, we're going to get through this season. We're going to celebrate the wins. We're going to analyze the losses, and we're going to be here when we finally return to glory.